How is everyone doing? Welcome back to another live stream. Today, I'm going to be bringing you coverage of the CPI release, which is going to be coming out very shortly here in the next 10 minutes. We're going to be getting the CPI month over month and also CPI year over year. The current forecast is that the month over month core CPI will come in at 0.3, with the previous being 0.2. The year over year is expected to come in at 2.7, with the previous being at 2.7. So CPI projected to go up a little bit compared to the last report. This is going to be very big for the market, in my opinion. And Bitcoin right now is trading around $91.9 thousand. I believe this move is going to really make the difference on whether we make that move up to 94K potentially in the coming days, or whether we are going to go back down to test the lows of the range. If you look on the 4-hour, Bitcoin's in a very clear range, clear as day. Everyone can see it. You don't have to be a genius. We have the highs of the range up here, 94 K, and we have the lows down here around 85 to 83K. That is the range we've been trading in for a long period of time. I'm expecting this week to really be the week where we get some form of a breakout move. And I don't think it's only going to be due to the CPI. We have coming tomorrow PPI, which isn't as important, but we also potentially have tomorrow the decision coming from the Supreme Court regarding the US tariffs and the legality of the US tariffs. So that is something which I'm really going to be focusing on tomorrow. I might bring that live to you, the decision, if it comes out. Now, there's a chance it doesn't come out. But the Supreme Court are supposed to rule against Trump. That is coming in. The latest it can come in is December 31st, but there's a solid chance it could come out tomorrow. And there's a 27% chance that they actually rule in favor of Trump's tariffs. So most likely they're going to rule against Trump. Trump said it would be a disaster if they do that, and it will be really bad for the economy, essentially. So that's really a big event to monitor. Potential decision coming out from the Supreme Court tomorrow. But on this stream, we're going to be bringing you the CPI, which is due in about 9 minutes. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section, in the live chat. Please smash up the likes. Let's try and get as many likes on the live stream as possible. I'm going to be back with the daily live streams, as I said. We've been on a daily streak, obviously excluding weekends, for some time now, and that daily streak is going to continue. I plan for the rest of the year, so hopefully we get some likes and encouragement so I can continue doing this. We have WH in the chat. How's it going? No Name says, down or up, please, analysis. So, it's not really easy right now to determine where Bitcoin's going. I've got to be honest with you. I don't think anyone truly knows where Bitcoin is going here. One thing I would say, this is like my positive analysis here. This is a bit of hopium, maybe. We are seeing a potential cup and handle form on Bitcoin, which is a very bullish structure usually. And you can see here, you've got your cup, and then you have your potential handle as well, which seems to be forming here. We can keep creeping up. Amazing, amazing, amazing stuff. Now, some people also draw a cup and handle like this. They kind of draw the channel. But either way, it looks like a cup and handle forming to me. It really does. And these typically tend to be very, very bullish. We've seen cup and handles play out really nicely, and you typically get a really nice impulsive move once you break that upside resistance. And I'm expecting that. I really am. I'm expecting that Bitcoin in the coming days and weeks breaks that $94,000 level, that psychological level that's been plaguing people's minds for some time now. We can get a break above that. I believe we're on for the complacency shoulder up to, at best, the lows of the range here, the lows of the macro range, which would be 107. That's the best case scenario for your complacency shoulder, low or high. And your worst case scenario is 100K. That psychological level of 100K. That also aligns with the 50-week moving average, which right now is trading at 101K. So somewhere between 101 or 100 to 107, I'm expecting a rejection and then continuation of this downtrend, which Bitcoin is in from a macro lens. Okay. And it's not a bad thing. I know people maybe don't want to hear that, but there's always going to be opportunities in this market. The last few months haven't been very good. yet we've just smashed it with some recent trades. The likes of XBL, which the alert was given at 0.12. It pumped up significantly, and also IP. Cryptex just put a long position on silver in the Discord group, and silver right now is absolutely exploding. So congrats to everyone in the Discord group who long silver. You can actually long silver on Blowfin. That's the beauty of Blowfin. You can actually long silver and gold. I gave a short alert for gold when it had a local top. It dumped. We made great profits on that, all on Blowfin. So there's a link down below in the description for anyone who wants to sign up on the exchange, which I personally use. I recommend using that link because there's going to be a big deal coming where you can potentially win an iPhone if you use that link. But yeah, you can short and long gold and silver actually on Blowfin. And you can see this trade alert that was given very recently from Cryptex, long setup. And yeah, I think it's starting to print now. It looks like silver's going to make maybe a final high. Who knows? But if you're just joining, guys, we have CPI dropping in approximately 5 minutes. I'm going to be bringing that to you live, just less than 5 minutes. So don't go anywhere. We're going to get it instantly as it comes out, and I'll give you my full analysis on the report, on the reading that we get, and what its consequences will be, mainly for Bitcoin and the crypto market, but also we'll be looking at the S&P 500 and the equities and seeing how they're moving. If we take a quick look at the S&P futures just before the open here, you can see they are down by about 13 points. So it looks like we're going to open at 7,016 on the S&P 500 after all-time highs after all-time highs. This thing just keeps going up. And if we get a positive CPI read, then it could really be good for the overall market, right? Because as of right now, the probabilities for rate cuts in the early part of this year are quite bleak. There's a very low chance that the Fed cut rates anytime soon. I'm going to show you those exact probabilities just before we get the decision here. So looking at January, sound is lagging a bit. I apologize. Don't know why it does this, guys. Don't know why it does it. If you could just confirm in the chat that the sound is back, then that would be amazing. But that is very frustrating, and I apologize. But let me know if the sound is back. Anyway, we're getting the CPI shortly, but obviously CPI directly relates to the Fed and the decision-making going forward. If you get very good CPI, meaning low, then the Fed have more of a mandate to actually cut rates. Okay? Right now, they're not looking like they're going to cut. They're saying the economy's fine. We did a few one-off cuts at the back end of last year. And, you know, that's it done now for some time. And if we look at January, you can pretty much write January off. So this CPI isn't really going to determine January's rate decision too much. But I think March is maybe a little bit more up for debate right now. There's a 70% chance that they do not cut in March, whereas January, there is a 94% chance, 95% chance that they do not cut. And then April, you've got a 71% chance that they don't cut. So March and April, it's like 70-30. 70% chance there's no cut, 30% chance there is a cut. Whereas January, you can pretty much write off as of right now. But we're going to get CPI in 2 minutes. We're going to see how inflation is, whether we are getting that cool down in inflation. I mean, it's been above target for the Fed for a very long period of time. It's been well above that 2% target, but it seems like they're doing away with that target now, and they're kind of moving on. And the 2% target days may be over for Bitcoin. So I told you guys in the last live stream about Pump Fund. That is an altcoin which I'm monitoring right now. If we can get that break above this previous high on Pump Fund, that is a trade position I might be entering. And if I do enter that trade position, I'll be dropping it in the VIP group, which you can access, link down below. But let's pull up Bitcoin. Let's look at it on the shorter time frames. Let's see exactly what it's doing on the 1 minute, since we are literally minutes away now from pivotal data. Now, we might get an instant bounce or an instant dump from this, but remember, the week isn't over, guys. We've got PPI coming tomorrow. We have the tariff decision potentially coming tomorrow as well. So there's some big events this week that are going to determine Bitcoin's trajectory going forward. So as of right now, Bitcoin 92K, pretty much exactly 92K. Let's see if there's any patterns forming here. Anything we could potentially watch for as CPI is literally less than a minute away, guys. Very close indeed. 42 seconds. So I'm going to pull over to the bit where we're going to get the reading. So here we go, guys. 30 seconds to CPI. You're going to see it live on this channel. What does everyone think? You guys expecting a move up or down? Let me know in the chat. Are you expecting that move up or down as a result of CPI? What are we thinking, guys? 98K to complete the bear flag and then down to 74. Possible, possible. Everyone's thinking we go to 100. What if they just trick us and we go a little bit lower? And 98 is the rejection point. So CPI coming in now. Pending, it says. So we should get this any second now. The CPI reading. Any second now, we're going to get it. And we're going to see the market reaction. So it came in at 0.2 month over month. Month over month CPI, core CPI that is, core CPI month over month came in 0.2 compared to a forecasted 0.3. And year over year came in exactly in line with expectations, 2.7. In line with 2.7. Bitcoin got an initial bounce up, and now we're starting to see a little drop. So this definitely has an effect on the markets, guys. Anyone who says it doesn't, they don't have a clue what they're talking about. This definitely affects the markets. Traders are looking at this event, making decisions going forward for the state of the US economy. So Bitcoin had an initial pop up to 92.6 almost, 92.5. And then it obviously wicked down. You see crazy volatility during these events, profit taking, short squeezes, stuff like that. So let's see if Bitcoin can push above the previous high we put in earlier today, which was a high of 92.6. If we can push above that, then that move back up to 94K could be on this week. Obviously, we have the decision coming on the tariffs potentially, which could move the markets. But wow, look at that volatility. Candle all the way up to 92.5. Then we gave all those returns straight back down. Very risky to trade these events, guys. Very, very risky. Let's quickly check how the S&P 500 is faring as a result of this news. Bitcoin getting a nice little bounce up. Nothing major, but a little bit of a bounce. Solana up 2.3% on the day. ETH up 1.6%. Bitcoin up 1.1%. If we go towards the equities, the S&P 500 has just turned bullish, up 0.16% today. Russell 2000 liking this. Russell 2000 up a whole percent. Russell 2000 obviously is the most rate-sensitive index out of them all. That is your smaller businesses, rather than the S&P 500, which is heavily weighted to your high caps. Largely the Mag 7. Your Russell 2000 has a much higher weighting with your lower cap, rate-sensitive companies which heavily rely on interest rates. So let's just take a look at the probabilities for the month of January, see if they've changed at all as a result of this news. So let's go on the 1 hour here, see if there's any change. Slight little uptick in terms of the probability of no change. 95% chance of no change. How about March? Let's take a look at March, see if that is changing at all, because this is really quite important for March. So let's check the last 6 hours. Okay, so we're getting a bit of a drop here in the probability of no change. So this data point, guys, has in fact increased the probability of a rate cut in March. CPI coming in lower than expected has in fact increased the probability of a rate cut in March. Now, it's still unlikely, but it's gone from 70-30%, which I literally just said to you guys minutes ago. I said 70-30 in March. It's now gone down to 65-35. So a little bit of a change, nothing major. Obviously, we get more data points going forward to March, which are going to determine that. But it's showing that inflation is cooling, and that is going to give the Fed more of an inkling to potentially cut going forward, right? Obviously, not in January, but going forward after that, maybe we will get one cut in Q1. How about the other things here? Fed rate. Let's see. Is the one for Q1? How many rate cuts in 2026? Here we go. So this is the one we want to look at. Let's see what it's saying. So as a result of this news, the chances of a rate cut, the chances of 2 rate cuts have gone up, and the chances of 4 rate cuts have gone up. So just slightly increasing the chances of rate cuts this year. Nothing major. How about Bitcoin? How's it moving as a result of this news? Let's see. So big red candle, big drop down. And the manipulation is insane. The volatility is insane on these news events. You've got to be really, really careful, guys. Huge, huge pump followed by a huge dump, right? You got to be so careful. You really, really have. We got 90 people watching live on YouTube, guys. Please make sure to leave a like on the stream if you like this type of content. If you want to see me cover more of these news events, we have PPI coming in tomorrow. Theta Frog says rate cuts are bearish. Very interesting take indeed. And we've talked extensively about whether rate cuts are actually good or bad in the Discord. And it's funny because we had multiple rate cuts in Q4 last year, yet the markets crashed. And after these rate decisions, the market would dump straight after the FOMC. So this whole idea that rate cuts are really, really bullish, it's not necessarily backed by evidence. Maybe the first 1 or 2 rate cuts are, but when they go into a cutting cycle, when they go into a cutting phase, and it's cut after cut after cut, that is not typically very bullish for the crypto market or for risk on assets, always. I mean, the first few are, don't get me wrong. You see the Russell always spike when you get the first few. But eventually, when they start cutting rates very heavily and you start getting the 50 basis points and you get the back-to-back-to-back, every single meeting they're cutting, that is a sign that something is systemically wrong with the economy, and the Fed are always late, so you know that shit is hitting the fan if the Fed are doing those 50 basis points or those heavy cuts. If the Fed are holding off and they're not cutting, that actually tells you the markets are doing okay. The economy is doing okay. There's no real urgent need for them to be cutting rates. So it really is a mixed bag. I would argue the first few cuts are sometimes good, but once they get into that real cutting phase and they're cutting after cutting after cutting, then yeah, I would agree that that is actually a bearish thing. And if you look historically speaking, sometimes when the Fed start cutting very heavily, markets do not like it. So you make an interesting point there. Thoughts on Casper these days? Bullish on it long term. Bullish on Casper long term, but the short term, obviously, if you've been watching the channel a lot, I am very, very concerned that Bitcoin will make a move down to its 200-week moving average before it makes a new all-time high. And if Bitcoin is on track for a move down to its 200-week moving average before a new all-time high, then that, of course, will likely drag a lot of the altcoins lower, including Casper, most likely. Now, with that said, Casper did actually perform tremendously well during the last bear market. So maybe it's going to be one of those alts which doesn't dump as much. But so far, we've seen no inclination to believe that. We've seen no indication to believe that. Every single thing we've seen with Casper is that when Bitcoin sneezes, Casper catches the flu and, is bedridden and has to go to the hospital. That's what we've seen so far recently. So if we can get that detachment, that would be nice. But so far, unfortunately, it's not really showing much detachment from Bitcoin. Definitely book a free one-to-one call. There is a link in the description for that. or you can just use the same link as what you use for my VIP. It's whop.com/cryptoarchie. You can book a call for 0 charge with my right-hand man, the guy who I work with on a day-to-day basis, talking about the markets. He's a very active member in my group. So you go to whop.com/cryptoarchie, scroll to the bottom, and you'll see the book a call tab. Click on that, and you get a 15-minute call for free. Talk about the markets, talk about your long-term strategy with crypto, what you're looking to get out of it, and it's all for free, 0 charge. So it's absolute no-brainer. So Bitcoin dumping down. We've had crazy wicks here. Let's see what the S&P 500 is doing. So S&P 500, not really doing anything major from this news, actually. Seems like Bitcoin had more of a direct impact from the CPI news than the S&P. How's the Russell 2000 doing? Let's see. So Russell 2000, where are you? Here we go. Russell 2000 now only up 0.65%. We looked at this minutes ago and it was up a whole percent. S&P, big candle. Big candle on the S&P. Let's see what Bitcoin's doing. Let's see what Bitcoin's doing. Let's see. So Russell 2000 up 0.61%, S&P 0.16. Now the market hasn't opened yet. We're looking at the futures, pre-market. But yeah, very volatile price action indeed. Seems like Bitcoin rejected exactly from its previous level here. So we basically got a double top there at that same price. Depending on the exchange you use, the wick will maybe be a bit different. But Bitcoin came right up to the level it was at previously, and we rejected, and we came straight back down. So I think now we're really looking to see how the US stock market opens in determining the next move for Bitcoin, because that was just a nothing burger. We came right up, right back down. Always happens, guys. Always happens. $2 from Ben Shaw. How's it going, Ben? Always good to see you. Do I think Say will reach $1? That's a near 10x. I think it will hit $1 at some point, but it probably will go down first before it hits $1, right? But if you've got a very long-term time horizon, then you don't need to worry too much. If you can just keep buying, then fine. But for me, my strategy is a bit different. I don't just have this DCA approach that some people do. I prefer to try and time the cyclical bottom. I mean, I'll do my best to do that, right? But I'm not recommending that for everyone. For me personally, I believe we are on track for that complacency shoulder, that rejection, and then we're going to come down. You know, if I was going to roughly draw out the pathway for Bitcoin that I see going forward, I see this kind of pathway, honestly. It's kind of pathway I see. Let me get rid of that and that one. So this is a very rough sketch, obviously, guys. Don't take this as gospel. But this is probably like the path I see Bitcoin doing. That's probably the kind of path I see for Bitcoin. I really think like 2026 is probably going to be a mixed year. There's going to be some great days and there's going to be some really bad days. But I think after 2026 is over, like 27, 28, 29, those are going to be the years for Bitcoin, I think. Those are going to be the years where crypto really becomes mainstream. And instead of people just putting 1% of their savings into Bitcoin, it's going to be like 5, 10, 15, 20%. Am I bullish on Bitcoin and Ethereum long term? Yes, but more bullish on Bitcoin than Ethereum long term. Problem with Ethereum is it's in a hyper-competitive space, which is the layer 1 smart contract space, whereas Bitcoin is not in a competitive space. The only competitor Bitcoin has is gold, realistically. There's no direct Bitcoin competitor in the crypto space, right? Bitcoin's purpose is to be digital gold, whereas Ethereum's purpose is to be more like the internet, right? The place where you build the applications on. And for that reason, Ethereum's got more competitors than Bitcoin. I'm not saying they'll ever overtake or they'll overtake Ethereum anytime soon, but I'm a fan of Solana. I'm a fan of Sui. I'm a fan of Sei. I like Plasma. There's a lot of layer 1s I like the tech of, which will give at some point Ethereum a run for their money. At some point. Could take 5 years, 10 years, whatever, but I think there's more competitors to Ethereum than Bitcoin, so it's got that added risk long term. But Theta Frog says, will there be, or there will be, it's a statement, there will be a bearish catalyst in 2026. I agree, there'll always be a bearish catalyst every year, right? There's always going to be a bearish catalyst. Last year we had the tariffs. We had geopolitical tensions. Maybe that comes around again this year. We're seeing a bit of a different approach from Trump so far this year in his foreign policy, a bit more of a confrontational approach, you could say, to foreign policy. Some would say he has some expansionist desires with Greenland and stuff like that. So maybe we're going to see geopolitical tensions heat up a little bit this year. That could be a potential negative catalyst. There's a lot of potential things that can happen, right? We're getting a new Fed chair. How is that transition going to be? You know, people say that Jerome Powell's really bad and all of this, but I think he does calm the markets a little bit. I'm going to be honest. I don't think much of Jerome Powell, but I think he does calm the markets. He has that calming effect. You replace him with some hardcore dove. There's risks. There's risks. The market might not like it. So Bitcoin just pretty much stagnant right now. Not really doing much. What are my thoughts on Monero? I was saying this in my VIP yesterday. Monero is always going to be around, right? Because there's always going to be criminals who are always going to be... There's always going to be drug dealers. There's always going to be, you know, people doing dodgy stuff, funding dodgy stuff. And Monero is always going to be there because it's a private currency. You know, you could argue many people who were led towards Bitcoin in the early days, the kind of anarchists and libertarians who are really passionate about Bitcoin, maybe they should have been on the Monero bandwagon because Bitcoin is not private. So I think Monero and Zcash are going to be here long term. They are arguably the most used cryptos out there, maybe. People actually use them because of the fact that they are private currencies, right? They are genuine currencies that people use. Most other cryptos, no one's using. No one's really using HBAR. No one's really using Sui, you know? Whereas these currencies are actually being used on a peer-to-peer level. So we got CPI come in. I think the real thing the market's going to wait for here is probably what's coming tomorrow. Not necessarily PPI. That's not as important, but the tariff decision. Let's go for Supreme Court. Maybe we'll get the probabilities on Polymarket. Okay, will the Supreme Court rule on Trump's tariffs by? Okay. So January 14th, that's tomorrow. 42% chance that they rule on the tariffs tomorrow. So it's almost 50-50. It's almost a 50-50 chance that they rule on the tariffs tomorrow. I'll be bringing that to you tomorrow, most likely, on this channel. So make sure you have notifications turned on. I'll try and bring this to you tomorrow so we can get that decision. I believe this is going to be a big, big deal for the markets. I really do. If there's something that's going to move the markets, I think it's going to be this. I really do. But yeah, we're going to wrap up the stream here, guys. The final question is on Dubai real estate. Which area is good for small money? So I'm actually going to be making a channel on real estate because I already am a real estate investor and I'm very bullish on the Dubai and UAE market going forward long term. I think it's got very good prospects. Yes, it's gone up a lot, but I think the long-term prospects are very good. And I've got loads of different ideas for people depending on your budget. So are you in my Discord? Are you in the VIP Discord? Because I can put you towards some people who have helped me a lot. And they know what they're talking about when it comes to real estate, the different budgets. So there's one particular region which is actually not in Dubai. It's a separate emirate. And I bought property here. So you might have heard of it. They're basically building the first casino in the UAE. And it's like this man-made island they're going to be building. There's going to be a big casino and then loads of 5-star hotels around it. I bought real estate within one of these 5-star hotels. Now, this is maybe a bit of a higher value purchase, but just tell us your budget. Even if your budget's like $100,000, $200,000 US dollars, we'll probably be able to find you something. But yeah, I'm looking to expand my real estate portfolio going forward. The goal is 20 properties by the time I'm 25. I think it's realistic but ambitious. But yeah, if you have any questions about real estate and you're in my group, definitely get in contact with me because it's something that I'm very passionate about and have a little bit of experience. But I'm not an expert in real estate, but I have friends who are experts. They have hundreds of properties and stuff like that. So definitely get in contact with me if you're interested. And you don't need to be spending millions of dollars. You can get stuff that's very affordable. But yeah, guys, we're gonna wrap up the stream here. Appreciate everyone tuning in, and yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.